The Fox City SCORE chapter and WHBY are pleased to bring you Biz Talk, a chance for you to hear from entrepreneurs and professionals as they share their experiences from starting to sustaining growth. Learn the skills needed for your business to be successful. If you missed anything, you can catch the Biz Talk podcast at biztalkwithscore.com. And now from the Myron Construction Studio, it's Biz Talk on WHBY.
Good morning and welcome to Biz Talk with SCORE. I'm Terry Pinch, one of the co-hosts, and joining me this week as co-host is Keith Keller. How are you doing, Keith?
Doing great. Good morning, everybody.
Good to have you. We'll talk more about SCORE later in the show, but we'll get started right away with our guest. She's been on the show before. I'd like to introduce you again to Britney Suttner from the Motherhood Alliance. Hello, Britney.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So, we had you on the show previously where we were talking about fit moms, and you also came on to talk about holistic healthcare when we had a show on that theme too. But you have a new business. Can you tell our listeners what the Motherhood Alliance is?
Sure. Yep. So we are the only online directory and resource center for families in Northeast Wisconsin who are seeking holistic care or alternative health solutions outside of the traditional medical system. So if you visit our website, which is motherhoodalliance.com, you'll find a directory. And on our directory, you'll find all of the local small health and wellness businesses who support moms and families, ranging from prenatal support like midwives, doulas, lactation consultants, to postpartum care like pelvic floor physical therapists, to natural-based family wellness for all age groups like specialized chiropractors, homeopaths, functional medicine experts, and more.
Okay. So, I mentioned Fit Moms earlier. Can you tell us a little bit about what led from Fit Moms to starting this new business?
Yeah. So, we own Fit Moms on the Move, my sister and I, and we also own the Motherhood Alliance as well. And we've been small business owners for about 11 years now as prenatal and postpartum specialized personal trainers. And with that niche, with seeing moms so often in that postpartum time frame, we just found that we were oftentimes getting asked questions like, hey, do you know a lactation consultant? Do you know a pelvic floor physical therapist? Do you know a so-and-so, an expert that was outside of our scope of practice? And sometimes we were able to say confidently, yes, we know someone. Sometimes we could say, I think I've heard of someone in that arena. And then sometimes we had to say, no, good luck. And that really broke my heart as a health and wellness expert. We really wanted to, if we couldn't help someone in a certain area, we wanted to be able to pass them gently to another expert. And so we went looking for a list of holistically minded small businesses in our area, and we couldn't find one, so we decided to start one.
Okay. And let's step back a bit before we go into the Motherhood Alliance a little further. With Fit Moms on the Move, could you describe a little bit about what that was? And then let's get into the transition that happened with the pandemic.
Yeah, so we started out, we both were having our kids when we first started Fit Mom. So we started it out as a part-time business, primarily seasonal in the summertime, where we would blend group fitness, education, and community. And so we met at outdoor parks or local green spaces we partnered with in the summertime only, and we would help moms to find community through group fitness. And again, like I said, with education built into it as well about pelvic floor rehabilitation and stuff like that. But then, like you said, COVID hit and things changed for everyone, just like us. And so we had to go to online offerings to be able to support our community. And then as we were pursuing our online options, we started to get really into the education world. So we created a postpartum recovery guide, at-home self-assessment, so a little bit more like courses. And then we really found that those were popular and needed. And the niche that we really felt drawn to at the time was the prenatal population, just helping them feel empowered and informed during pregnancy so that they could go into their postpartum with a full plan. And so we started a class called Prepared for Postpartum at that time.
Okay. So during this show, as we're going to be talking a lot about how you started up the Motherhood Alliance, because it's one of the best examples I've seen of starting up a small business. But one of the things that really fed into it was the learning that came from Fit Moms. So as you did that transition to the online offerings and then moving in towards prepare for postpartum. How did you and your sister Andrea talk about where you wanted to go next? What really led you to want to focus on education and moms a little bit more?
Well, I think we're both people who are keeping our eyes open, and we constantly are checking in with the people that we're serving. What are they liking? What are they not? What needs are being filled? What needs are not being filled? And I think sometimes it can be scary as a small business owner to walk through what seems to be an open door. You never know what's behind it. There might be some risk involved, but that hasn't really seemed to stop us. So we've decided that, we're going to live by the seat of don't be afraid to pivot if you need to. And so for FitMom specifically, we have had to pivot our opportunities, but then with the Motherhood Alliance, it was almost like an entire separate idea that also blended in with what we were doing at the time. So it started out as a PDF download, and now it's grown to something bigger. But yeah, we decided that having an open door was something we should walk through, because you never want to live in regret. You don't want to ever say, I wish I would have tried something.
Hey, Brittany, you mentioned earlier that the type of providers that you have listed on your Motherhood Alliance directory are kind of alternative medicine, holistic. Why did you decide to go that direction? Was there a part of the market that you thought were underserved, particularly by those types of providers?
Yes, I would definitely say yes. So we started out, like I said, more focused on that season of prenatal postpartum. And oftentimes the providers that women are seeing, whether it's an OBGYN or a midwife or even a lactation consultant in the hospital, they're readily available during pregnancy, but then in the postpartum time frame, they're very hard to get a hold of. They're not easily accessible. And so oftentimes the people we were seeking were experts that were still in the field, but were private practice. And then additionally, as we were finding these businesses, every single one of these small businesses, I have had a one-on-one conversation with. And so I've been able to hear their story, and it really grew on our hearts, because the majority of small businesses are truly started because someone went through a challenge, they went through a pain point, and they found their purpose because of it. And so as we started creating this list, we decided we were only going to focus on small businesses, because we also know what it feels like to be a small business, how challenging and how hard it can be. And we want to see them make it. We want to help them gain visibility, because the big hospital systems, they have plenty of advertising. They do have resources that are really helpful, but like I said, they're oftentimes hard to access. Whereas these small businesses, nobody knows about them, but they are readily available and ready to serve.
And it seemed like from your other business, Prepare for Postpartum, from what I've read, that was an area that really was underserved, right? That there's just was not the type of care available for moms. Once you left the hospital or the birthing center, it was kind of, you're on your own.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. After about that 6-week post checkup, moms are often on their own. And that's where the Motherhood Alliance has really blossomed into something that can support families. And we have plans for the future that we'll go over in a little bit as well, where we want to help families feel fully supported. Obviously, there's the health and wellness side, but there's also the community side, because motherhood is so lonely feeling. You're constantly questioning what you're doing, if it's right, if it's wrong, you don't know who to turn to. And oftentimes, when you need help, you need it like yesterday. If you're having a hard time with nursing and you're nursing every 3 hours, you need help now. And so having people that are readily accessible is really important in finding success in your journey.
Okay. And as you were starting this business up, one other factor played into the Motherhood Alliance and FitMoms, and it's the fact that both you and your sister Andrea value work-life balance a lot. It's a priority in everything you do. So can you talk a little bit about how you balance being a mom with being a business owner?
Yes, this is very challenging. And I will say that it was more challenging when my kids were toddlers and they were home with me full time. This is the second year that both of my kids are in school, and then my sister's kids are a little bit older. So it gets a little bit easier now when we are able to have like set work hours and then like set office hours and then family hours. But I will tell you that what you do when no one is watching is so important. And this is something that both my sister and I have prioritized. So for the last, 7, 8 years, I've been getting up at 5 a.m. because from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. or whatever time frame it is when the kids are up and are needing me, that is my time to work. I mean, we're coming off the summer right now. So my kids were with me all summer long. And so I had to revert back to early morning hours. That's when I'm listening to podcasts. That's when I'm growing myself professionally. That's when I'm actually getting work done and answering emails. That's when I'm taking phone calls and interviews from Motherhood Alliance. It's from 7 to 9 a.m. so we can go do fun things the rest of the day. So I think being organized, planning ahead, and then really prioritizing your time, looking at how much TV are you watching? Can you be spending that a different way? I know getting up at 5 a.m. is really hard, but is that something you can do to help move yourself forward?
Okay. So as we move into the Motherhood Alliance a little more, that started out as a free initiative where you were just using as a networking group. And I believe that was for about a year. Let's talk a little bit. We talked about why you started it up, but what did you have to do to get it going and how much time was it taking?
Yeah, it was, we were very heavy into working on the Fit Moms on the Move business. And so the Motherhood Alliance started pretty light. It would just start with, periodically, if we'd hear of another business, I would have a conversation with them to see if they'd be a good fit. I would add them to our downloadable PDF. And that was about it. We were promoting it a little bit on our social media for Fit Mom. But then for the businesses themselves, we also wanted to give them a way to connect and collaborate because there is huge value in networking as well. And so we were just holding quarterly like social hours in the evening. And that's about how it started for almost 2 years. It was almost 2 years before we decided to take it to the next level.
And that leads to the question, why did you decide to take it to the next level?
Yeah, that is a good question. Honestly, it's the feedback that we got from families who were like, I had one woman come up to me and she was in that pregnancy season. And I do want to make it clear that the Motherhood Alliance is not just for this pregnancy and postpartum season. We have resources on there. If you have school-aged kids like me, if your kids are in high school and you just value more natural-based health, this is still a resource for you. But this woman specifically came up to me and she's like, thank you so much for this list. I found my doula on there. I have a lactation consultant lined up. I've already picked out a pelvic floor physical therapist in case I need some help. So like she was just felt completely supported and excited. And then honestly, the networking groups from the businesses themselves, we were constantly hearing people who are walking into this group who's an entrepreneur and they're feeling down. They're like, I don't know if this is worth it. I don't know if my business is going to make it. And they would leave that event feeling fired up and just feeling like there's hope again. We saw so many collaborative events come out of connecting these like-minded health and wellness professionals. So honestly, it was the feedback that made Drea and I sit down and be like, there's something here. We can really make a difference in families' lives because since COVID, I think COVID really opened people's eyes into how much their everyday choices contribute to their overall health. And then it also opened our eyes to our modern medical system, which is needed. Please don't get me wrong. But care is often dictated by policies or insurance companies that are outside of your good-hearted physician's control. And the things that we learned from COVID really opened people's eyes. So we just decided, it was actually November of 2023, we decided that we needed to take the Motherhood Alliance, completely separate it from Fit Mom. Fit Mom is a member of the Alliance, but it's its own entity so that all of the businesses can feel like they have a say in it. They're a part of the family. And we decided to build out a directory style website instead of having a PDF download so that families can just go on there. They can put in a keyword, their zip code, and hit go, and they can find resources in their area that can help them. So it was about November of 2023 that we decided to take it seriously. And then it took us about 6 months to build everything out before we launched.
Okay. So we're going to take a break now. And when we get back, we're going to start talking through what was involved in getting this business set up. Just clean up a few things in the next segment and then move heavily into that. You're listening to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY. I'll be right back.
Welcome back. We're glad you joined us this morning. Our guest today is Britney Suttner from the Motherhood Alliance. Before continuing our conversation with Britney, I'd like to tell you about SCORE Fox Cities. SCORE Fox Cities serves the 8-county area from Waupaca to Montello and Appleton to Fond du Lac. We have about 35 volunteers, each an expert in their field, offering entrepreneurs no-cost and confidential mentoring. Those areas of expertise include IT, social media, marketing, sales, cash flow, accounting, strategic planning, workflow, HR, retail, best practices, and many others. In order to register for a no-cost confidential mentoring session and or to learn more about the SCORE Fox Cities chapter, visit our website at score.org/foxcities. You can learn more about how the SCORE chapter can assist you with starting and or growing your business, and you can complete an application for a mentoring session. Simply complete the online form and submit it to SCORE. Within a few days, a SCORE mentor will be contacting you to set up a meeting. And remember, SCORE is no cost and offers experts who can offer you assistance in many different areas. To get started, visit our website at score.org/foxcities. To support small businesses, Fox City SCORE is always looking for new mentors. If you have experience that you would like to share with others, we'd love to talk to you. We welcome volunteers with experience in all aspects of business. Owners of small business need your help, and your experience can make a real difference to their success. Go to score.org/foxcities, click on the volunteer button, and fill out the short application. We'll get back to you to explain more. Thanks again for joining us on Biz Talk. Now back to Britney Suttner from the Motherhood Alliance. And Britney, I'd like to pick it up a little bit from where we left off before the break. You were talking about the Motherhood Alliance and how it developed out of what was essentially kind of a PDF form of a listing, basically, of these providers. And I'm interested in particularly how you attract providers now that it's become more of a business, and what that business model is. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Yeah. Attracting small businesses, I think as we are just growing from our infancy, part of it is reaching out to small businesses. So as I'm learning more about others, it's inviting them in. But we also have a referral program. So we do have some of our current members who are inviting others that they know in. It's been really exciting. And the culture of this group really is renewed hope. Like I had mentioned about those events that we have members come to, and people are walking in the door, sometimes feeling discouraged, walking out the door, just feeling on cloud nine again, like I can do this because I know I'm not alone. And it's not only hope for themselves and their own businesses, but it's really more than that. It's hope that we together as a group, we can help to change our culture, and we can help families thrive and live happy, healthy lives. And so when we explain that this is bigger than just themselves, but we also are really rooting for them and we want to see them win, it's really a no-brainer to join in with our mission. And then from a structure standpoint, the Motherhood Alliance, everything that we offer for families is completely free. So we offer obviously the directory piece where they can go in and utilize that and find help when they need it. But we also started a podcast in July, which has been amazing. And then also we have a blog as well. So we're also trying to help families feel empowered within their own health. There's so many families that are really looking to become experts within their own homes, and we want to assist them with that. But then for businesses, that's the piece where we do charge to become members. We have 3 different membership tiers so that businesses are only paying for what they want. We know that so many of these are just startups, and so we've made the price super affordable, but it helps to offset the business costs for us.
Thank you.
How did it go in terms of getting your members who are free, paying nothing, who are a free part of the list, to transition to being a paying part of the Motherhood Alliance?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, like I said, it kind of comes back to that vision and just knowing who we are, how we're linking arms together, and we're really helping to raise up Northeast Wisconsin together. And I think once these small businesses know that piece, but also helping them once they see the actual offerings that we offer by being a part of the membership, it's a no-brainer, because as a small business, like I said, small business owner for 11 years now, we have looked at radio ads, we've looked at TV ads, we've looked at billboards, we've looked at different ways of marketing, and it is so expensive for a small business. And so to be able to get a niche of networking events where it's all health and wellness professionals, to get help with digital marketing, to get exposure opportunities like being on our podcast and writing blogs. We have a lot of benefits as part of the membership. So overall, I feel like it went really, really well.
Okay. And how did that impact Fit Moms? What did you have to do differently?
Yeah, when we decided to take the Motherhood Alliance another step, I mean, we were essentially starting a second business. And so as moms ourselves and prioritizing our family as being very vital for us, it was hard. And so we had to hire help. And this is something that I would encourage other small business owners to do. We both are the type where we have a really hard time letting go of the little things, releasing control. But we have an incredible admin that's helped us in FitMom and kind of helped us continue that business while also being able to shift some of our focus over to the Motherhood Alliance. So there were some things we had to put on pause, like we actually paused our Prepare for Postpartum classes for a period of time in order to get the Motherhood Alliance launched. We had to hire, like I said. Those are probably the primary two things, as well as just honestly giving ourselves grace, especially heading into summer after the launch, knowing our kids were going to be home with us. Just giving ourselves grace, looking at our schedules, taking out the things that are essentially a waste of time and filling it in with opportunities that we can do to move forward.
Okay, we're at the right spot for our second break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what went into starting this business and how did they transition from an idea to making it happen in a very short period of time. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Biz Talk. We're talking to Britney Suttner from the Motherhood Alliance. Before we get back to Britney, I just have a couple things I'd like to mention around education. If you go to our website, score.org/Fox Cities, you'll see that there's a tab up at the top on workshops and events. And I want to mention some that are coming up in September today because it's something we get a lot of questions on. It's around QuickBooks training. Coming in September, the Canton, Ohio SCORE chapter is putting on a series of 4 QuickBook events. And so anybody can sign up for it. They're live, they're online. But if you go to the website and click on the events and then just select any location, you'll find a listing of a lot of different, and put in QuickBooks, you'll find a listing of a lot of different QuickBooks training events. And so many small businesses use QuickBooks for their accounting system that you will be amazed at what you'll learn if you actually go and a lot of you just struggle through in your own learning it. But they're going to have segments on 1 week for beginners, another week for intermediate, a third week for expert, and a fourth week for nonprofit. So again, that's QuickBooks training. It's from the Canton, Ohio SCORE chapter, but you can find it on our website, thescore.org/Fox Cities. And for those of you who are wondering about QuickBooks training, and this is free, you can go out there and take a look and learn a lot about QuickBooks. So with that, we'll turn back to Britney now. And Britney, let's talk a little bit about what skills that you developed from Fit Moms transitioned into your startup for the Motherhood Alliance. So what did your background give you that you might not have had if you were starting right into opening up the Motherhood Alliance without Fit Moms?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think back to our beginning journey, and we started FitMom because we saw a gap in the fitness industry, that women needed more support and more education when they're getting back into fitness after having kids. And so we started with our background in exercise science. Then by opening a small business, we of course had to learn all the business side, which we had no college background in. It's been a lot of a learning curve over the last 11 years, but it definitely made this transition into starting another small business much simpler. Like I had mentioned, we had a really hard time hiring and letting go of certain things. So the one benefit that came from that in our Fit Mom years was that we had to learn a lot of the back end ourselves. So like Drea she built our website for Fit Mom. She knows a lot about website and SEO and things like that. We have done all of our own social media research and marketing. We've done our own networking and getting out there and meeting these other professionals. And so when we started Motherhood Alliance, we already knew how to do social media. We already knew how to do a lot of pieces when it comes to websites. So we actually did build our website ourselves, which has been an interesting skill that we never would have anticipated 11 years ago. But then also the networking piece, networking really is the best marketing strategy for small businesses, because not only can you build your own referral network, but you can then feel confident knowing who you're referring to. So there's definitely been benefits to owning a business ahead of time before starting this one. But again, we had to learn the hard way for 11 years before jumping into this.
And can you talk then a little bit about the similarities? So really the biggest one was community, going from the community of Fit Moms to the community of the Motherhood Alliance.
Yeah, we definitely excelled within Fit Mom of building community. That was one of our 3 primary pillars that we focused on. And that's, if you talk to anyone local who has ever participated in a Fit Mom offering of any kind, they're going to say that the community is what drew them in. And so that's something that we really strove to excel in. And so now stepping into this new space of more of it's almost like a niche chamber, right? And then also online directory. This is all very different, but the community aspect is still needed for both sides of who we're serving. We are a business that serves 2 populations. We serve moms and families. We also serve small health and wellness professionals, small business health and wellness professionals. So community, as humans, community is really what people are looking for. This is why COVID was such a struggle for so many people, because even though they were able to, survive, they missed and needed and craved that community. And so it's been important to us when we initially started with the idea of the Motherhood Alliance. It was to serve moms, but it didn't take us very long to be like, but wait, these small businesses need community too. So that is definitely something that we are striving to keep forefront as we continue to build.
One thing that strikes me about all that is that in your particular business, as I think you've very aptly explained, community is really foundational to the business. And yet in a lot of businesses that we interact with through SCORE or we just know about out there in the marketplace, there's all kinds of businesses trying to develop community particularly in support of their customers or consumers. And any particular advice that you might have, a company that an organization that just wouldn't be there without community, that you might pass on as words of advice to those who are looking to build community in all kinds of businesses? Is there any particular thoughts you might share with them that you think are, very important when it comes to developing those communities?
Sure. Yeah. I think first thought that comes to my mind is that consistency is key. If you're going to build a community, they have to know that you're in it for the long haul, that you're serious about it, and that you're not just going to, maybe if you start a Facebook group and that's where you're trying to build your community, you do a couple posts and then you wait a couple months and you do another couple posts. That's something that we've gotten really good at, is that we pre-plan and then once we're ready, we go all in. Now, there's a difference between that and, like I had talked about earlier, with taking risks, because I think what we have found is the difference between knowing when to pivot and change something and take maybe a little bit of a step without having all of the knowledge yet, but also the difference between that and then with community piece or certain pieces of our business when we're like, okay, we need to have these ducks in a row before we can step through that door, because we need to show that we are committed. A good example of that is the podcast we just launched. It took us months to pre-plan and learn the equipment and figure out editing stuff and hire people to help us in certain areas. But then once we start, we are promising to be consistent. Every week we will have an episode come out. But then, going back to the other side with the launch of the Motherhood Alliance, we didn't have all the answers at the time. We just said, hey, everybody, we're stepping through this door, come link arms with us, and we're going to go on this journey together. So knowing that difference, and then with building community itself, consistency for sure. I think authenticity is important because you're going to draw in the people who can relate to your vision. And so having that vision, knowing where you want to go and why you want that community in the first place is going to be important as well.
Okay.
Great.
Before we get into the planning a little bit, you started to talk about it. I do want to just touch on one other thing during the transition. Probably the biggest change I saw was in confidence. So the difference in talking to the two of you 3 years ago and the difference in talking to you today is dramatic. And you two believe in what you're doing. You understand where you want to go. And quite frankly, you've got capabilities many others don't have. And just the website itself and the development you did. Because one thing I'll mention to listeners is I know Keith and I were involved in talking to them about their old website. And you look at where they were with that to where they are today, and they did it all themselves. But that came with confidence. How important was that confidence in starting up the Motherhood Alliance?
Well, I think it's key, especially when you have businesses that are paying to be a part of it, when you have people who are relying on you to come through and be true to your word. Confidence is going to be key. I think, like we had talked about, time has also been a huge benefit for us in the way of a few years ago, like you're saying, we didn't really feel like God had painted our picture yet. We didn't quite feel like we had found it. And so we were willing to pivot and pivot again and just try and follow his lead to figure out what is our purpose and what are we meant to be doing. I think stepping into the Motherhood Alliance has been very exciting for us because over the last 11 years, yes, we are super passionate about the prenatal, postpartum, personal training side of things. But as small business owners ourselves, we have become unimaginably passionate about helping other small businesses make it because we know how hard it is. And so, especially after hearing every single one of these stories from these small business owners, I am just so proud of them for stepping out and being willing to take a risk. And I know their journey is not going to be easy. And so I just want to applaud them. And that gives us energy and that gives us, a boost into this culture of being like, we know who you are. We see you. You are not alone. And so, yes, I would agree with you that our confidence has increased over the last few years.
Yeah. And one of the things coming and helping build that confidence is what you mentioned before is planning. And I'll tell you that from my perspective, when I thought this would be successful was when I saw the planning work you'd already done. And just that first page you did talking about your target market and where you're going and what you were trying to do was just fantastic. So really setting the boundaries for what you worked on. Can you let us talk a little bit about what problems are you trying to solve for moms and the businesses that serve moms?
Sure. Yeah. Before I jump into that, I do want to just give SCORE a little bit of a shout out because the support that we have received from being a client of SCORE, and Terry specifically has helped us through so many things, has really helped us to stay focused on not only where we should be at within our business, but also personally making sure he makes sure that we are staying focused on our family staying first. And so the transition was made easier by having support people around us. So I just wanted to mention that first. But then with the target market of who we're trying to help, I think it's really for the family side, it's those who are health-minded and are really trying to learn as much as they can to become an expert within their own home. We're looking for families who are really tired of long waits when, within traditional healthcare systems. They're tired of having big bills. They're tired of feeling like they're getting passed around. They really do value trying natural-based remedies before going to medicines. And they really kind of want to have that old school hometown. I want someone who really truly cares about me and my family and has time for us. But then for the businesses, our target market there is going to be small businesses, and we classify those as 20 team members or less. So we really are looking for smaller size businesses, health and wellness focused, more naturally minded, of course. And then for some industries that are really big, like chiropractors, physical therapy, those are really good examples where it's a fairly, I don't want to use the word saturated, but there's a lot of them in our area. Then we're looking for specialized businesses in that area.
I have to say that more than 2 or 3 of your providers are also clients of mine, SCORE clients. So you've got it's a really strong network, as I can view from this side.
So as you had that initial outline of where you wanted to go, let's talk about the planning and execution piece. So first of all, what tool did you use? You guys don't see each other every day, you and your sister. How did you work together? And you also have different times with your kids. So how did you work together to get all this done? Because it was done very quickly in very short 6 months.
Yeah. Luckily, like I said, we're in a season now where all 4 of our kids are in school full time. So our office hours are during school hours. We do live close to each other, so there were times that we'd be able to get together. But honestly, we just started with a big business plan Google Drive file with all sorts of tabs in it and a gigantic to-do list. So that was our primary point where we would have, we'd be able to communicate through that. Who's taking this? Where are we at on this? This one is complete. This one has a due date of this. And it worked great. We were able to stay on task, see our due dates. So, that's where you don't necessarily need a high-priced system to stay organized. And one thing I want to mention here, too, is that I'm very blessed to have a sister that we can be business partners together in and that we can bounce ideas off of. But that's where the importance of being a part of something like the Motherhood Alliance, where you can rub shoulders with other entrepreneurs, is so important. Because even if you don't have a sister who's in business with you and you're handling all those tasks by yourself, you can still have support, whether it's working with SCORE or working through a network like what we offer, or even just finding other ways to hiring someone, and someone who you value their opinion as well. That's going to be key, because I can tell you, I would have been lost without my sister and she would have been lost without me. So logistically for our launch, we kind of each assigned tasks. She's in charge of this piece of it. I'm in charge of this piece of it. And we were able to connect, review our tasks, move on, and it went great.
Was there any time when you were working through that you started to feel maybe this was too much, or you were pretty confident the whole way through?
Well, Drea had a 2-week trip to Peru with her family, and I panicked, thinking that she was going to be gone, especially because that was right before our launch time. But we both have had a lot of grace with each other and our timelines, and when kids get sick and family vacations. And so we just prayed about it, and we just took a deep breath, and we went, you know what, if we have to adjust our date, we can. But we didn't have to. We got it done.
And what about setting priorities? How was that talking? Did you have to sit down and talk, whether online or together, to really adjust your priorities to make sure you could get everything done?
Yeah, that was the time that we had to put some things on pause for Fit Mom so that we could execute the launch of the Motherhood Alliance. That's where we did have to sacrifice a little bit there. During that time frame, we chose not to sacrifice our family time. So we decided that we would rather have to push our business date out than sacrifice our family time. But we did have to sacrifice time in other areas to be able to get this short-term goal done. Now, now that the launch is officially done, we do still own 2 businesses. And so we're constantly having conversations about who's in charge of which piece of which business. We have hired help for both of them as well. We have an event planner for Motherhood Alliance. We've hired a marketing expert to help us get the word out and help more families know about us. So we've lost that nervousness of hiring others because we know we can't do it all.
Okay. So this business started up, was it only 4 months ago? You're in your 4th month, but it's been very successful. As I've told people before, it's one of the best startups I've seen. Could you talk a little bit about how you feel versus your objectives and where you are and how you adjusted during the summer too?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I would definitely say the reason that our launch went so well is because we've been around for almost 2 years as a free resource. So I guess that's another tip if you're looking to build community is especially if you're looking to build a community that might be long-term or even be an income source for you, start with it being free and get feedback. make sure that it's something that you enjoy doing, make sure that it's something that other people are seeing the value in. And so because we had done it for free for 2 years, we had the buy-in from people to when they were ready to join up. What was the second part of your question?
And just how did your stay-at-home moms for part of the time, how did you manage through the summer?
Oh yeah, that was challenging. Not gonna lie. that was really challenging. We had pre-planned the launch to be May 1st so that we could get all of that, behind the scenes work done before summertime so we could free up some of our summer. But like I had mentioned, it was early mornings. It was us trying to get together with our 4 kids running around like tornadoes and crazy people, which is awesome, but it definitely makes it hard to focus. So we definitely decreased our workload while also keeping priorities still rolling and making sure that, again, that community didn't just see us disappear. We're still highly involved, but the behind the scenes pieces, some of those needed to wait until the school year started back up.
Okay, so we're at the time for our final break. You're listening to Biz Talk with Score on WHBI, and I'll be right back. I'd like to thank the sponsors and donors who bring Biz Talk with Score to you each weekend. We couldn't present Biz Talk without their generous support. Thank you to Hailing & Associates. Hailing & Associates helps small businesses and individuals not just prepare tax returns, but plan for taxes, thereby helping you minimize taxes for this year and beyond. Hailing & Associates, personal connection, positive results. Thank you to the Business News for promoting our program and the biweekly business newspaper serving Northeast Wisconsin. If you aren't already subscribed to the Business News, you should. The paper is delivered biweekly and contains relevant and useful information about the business community in Northeast Wisconsin. We would also like to recognize the David L. and Rita E. Nelson Fund within the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region for their generous donation and support of Biz Talk and Fox City Score. So now, Brittany, could you let our listeners know how they can find out more about the Motherhood Alliance?
Yeah, you bet. I think the first place to visit is our website. That's motherhoodalliance.com. That's where you're going to find the directory. You'll be able to read our blog. You can easily listen to our podcast there. You can contact us at hello@motherhoodalliance.com if you have any questions or comments you want to send our way. We are also on social media, and you can subscribe to our newsletter. That's probably the best way to stay connected. That you can find that at the bottom of our website.
And this is a really unique show in that you're a very young business. You guys have only really been a for-profit business for about 4 months, but it's because you're so successful that we wanted to talk about it. Can you in a few minutes give our listeners some ideas of what's coming in the future? Where does this business go?
Yeah, we have a lot of ideas. As we've kind of already, as you know, Terry, we are always full of ideas. We are ramping up our member events again. We have some experience events coming up where some of our members can attend things where they can actually attend events like a sound bath therapy or something like that where they can learn more about health and wellness outside of their expertise. We are also going to be integrating moms into the business, so stay tuned for that. Make sure you're on our newsletter to stay in the loop because we're going to have some consistent events for moms or families. Those are in the works. We are looking to have a dye-free trunk or treat event at the end of October. We're also going to be giving opportunities for moms or families to give them a voice and an opportunity to share their story or raise awareness of a particular mental or physical challenge they or maybe their child have gone through. So we're going to give families an opportunity to get involved and really help share their side of what they're experiencing. So in general, though, of course, we'll be working hard to ensure that every family in Northeast Wisconsin knows that this is a free resource that's at their fingertips for whenever they need support. We will be expanding, like I said, to be giving a voice not only to the moms, but also to small businesses and making sure that they know that we are a linked arms group. This isn't just Motherhood Alliance and they're a member and we're doing everything. Like, they are actually involved and get to speak to a lot of what we're doing and our choices. And our goal is to increase the number of small businesses who make it not just 2 years or 5 years, but into a full purpose-driven career. And then long term, we can expand to other regions of Wisconsin and beyond. We'll see what kind of an impact we can make in our area.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for being on the show. Again, it's a great story. And we could have talked 20 minutes just on what you've got coming next, because there's a lot of different ideas there. So we really appreciate you being on the show. Thank you to all our listeners. Again, you can go to our website at biztalkwithscore.com to hear past episodes. And later this week, you will also find it on all the various podcast platforms that are out there as well. So we really appreciate all of you and are looking forward to having you listen in more. Thanks, everybody, and we'll talk to you next week.